Beautiful, beautiful. Happy Thursday, everyone. I am so excited. I have my good friend and super entrepreneur and investor, Paulie Kazanofski here. And I just wanted to let you know, like Paulie Kazanofski, he's a real estate investor. I would say one of the top in the US because he's doing so many deals, but he didn't get there by accident. It's all by design, guys. And he's an author, a speaker, a TV personality. He was featured on, I think it was the A&E Bid. Was that correct, Paulie?
A&E Bid, Build, and Design. It was a show about house flipping in Nashville. It was me and two other girls. They followed them around and me around and my team. It was called Bid, Build, and Design. It was on FYI Bio Channel at the time, which is also A&E. They showed it on both.
I'm sure it was epic. And I know that there was a documentary, the 24-hour entrepreneur, right? That you were featured on. But yeah. Moreover, I want to talk to you today, Paulie, about your story, because to me, your story about growing up in Canada, in Montreal, and then moving at a young age to the US and going through adversity, I think that's what we can all relate to as a lot of immigrants here in the US or just people getting started in their entrepreneurial journey. Some call it the roller coaster, right? Times are good, times are bad. So I'm so excited to dive in. But first and foremost, Paulie, can you give us a little bit of a backstory of where you started and what were some of the lessons learned throughout the journey that made you the man that you are today?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Ed. I welcome everybody. It's great to be on your show, my friend. Well, listen, I grew up with a single mom. My mom grew up in former Yugoslavia, which was a communist country, and they escaped communism for a better life. Like a lot of immigrants, they come to America, Canada, better lives, Australia, places where the land was free, and you have freedom. And so I grew up in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So you could imagine, as a young kid, I didn't speak English. Like when I started speaking English, I had an accent, and I worked on my accent. But getting back to my story, basically what it was I grew up in a really poor area called Point St. Charles in Montreal. It was the second poorest city, or like a little burb is what they call it, in all of Canada. So it was very blue collar, a lot of people on government subsidized like welfare and things like that. But one thing about my mom, she never took a handout. She worked several different jobs. She had pride. She had integrity and things like that. And she taught us that. Now, her and my dad, they divorced when I was only 4 years old. So I didn't even know my dad growing up, to be honest. And so we lived this way. But my mom, because of her scarcity mindset, would really hold us back, me and my sister. And she would say, don't ever talk about money, or don't dream big. That's for the rich people. We're here. Let's just be happy with what we have. But because I was dyslexic and going through school, I wasn't doing well in school because I had a little bit of a learning disability. But the teachers were like, this guy's like, he's got a good personality. He works hard. He's a great athlete. He's socially a good kid. He has a lot of friends and things like that. So I gravitated more towards doing like athletical things or drama or something. And I always dreamed about getting out of my ghetto that I called Point St. Charles, where I grew up. Now, the people there, they weren't all bad. And by the way, I so often think back to where I grew up, and I still have some of the same friends. So I'm not talking bad about the place. It's just that most people that grow up there, they stay there. Yeah. And it's almost like a concentration camp without the barbed wire. Yeah. I just told my mom at a young age, I left my home at 15 years old because I couldn't be indoctrinated with this negativity from my mom. Now, I'm not talking bad about my mom. My mom's a great lady in what she's great at. But I wasn't going to listen to anyone that was going to tell me what I was going to do with my life in a free country.
Or who you're going to be in the end, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'll be honest with everyone listening and yourself, my buddy. I didn't know I was going to be an entrepreneur. No one really does. But I said, okay, I was good at drumming. I was a drummer and a boxer.
Yeah.
Very good athlete. I was good. I did drama at school. That's where I excelled. It wasn't in the academics. So I said, I'm going to get out of this neighborhood by doing one of those activities, either physically being a boxer or a kickboxer or a drummer in a rock band.
Which, by the way, I still see you got that position. You go into your
fight. I mean, trust me, that's the thing. I started at 9 years old.
Yeah.
My mom made me be a fighter because I lived in that neighborhood to be able to protect myself, and I became really good at it. I was passionate about it. But to make a long story short, I knew that I was going to get out of there by doing one of these activities. And I had my chance at 19. I re-met some of my aunts and uncles from my father's side at a wedding, and my aunt and uncle were living in California. Now, to us in where I grew up, we didn't understand business because no one ever talked about business. But my aunt and uncle, they were in the real estate business. So they invited me to go visit California. Now, up until that time, I'd never been on a plane. So I'm like, I'm going to go visit California. I've heard movies, movie stars, right? Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I saved up, got myself a ticket and went and met my aunt and uncle there. And they showed me a different life. They were happy. They got along together. There was no arguments. There was no ghetto. There was no small scarcity mindset. And I was like, oh my God, like I want something like this for my life.
Yeah.
And so I met a girl when I was there. I met a girl when I was there, one of my cousin's friends, and I decided to move to California illegally. And I came to this country. Everybody in my neighborhood's like, you don't want to go there. They're going to send you back. You can't do it. You got to get your papers. I'm like, I have a bigger dream. And I said, I'm going to be a band guy or a boxer. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do business. And so I moved there.
And by the way, what age? How old were you?
I was 19 years old.
Okay. So that was between 15 and 19 when you made that transition.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, I was always a little entrepreneur before I even knew the word entrepreneur. I scalped tickets at the Montreal Forum for the events, buying tickets and selling tickets for a profit. I shoveled pads. I would buy merchandise and sell it for more. You know, I was just that I didn't know I was doing business, and a lot of people listening, they don't know they're doing business until they're doing business. I didn't know I had the gift to be able to communicate with people and have the energy to do it. But when I got to California, I had a vision for my life, and I worked for my uncle for free, and he would try to pay me. And I'm like, Uncle Jimmy, his name is Dimitri. I said, Uncle Jimmy, I just want to learn. I want to be better in my life. And I worked and I asked questions. I took notes, and I learned a different way. And, you know, I never did drugs. I never drank. I never smoked. I didn't gamble. I was a very serious guy. Even though I came from that humble beginnings, I just wasn't weak-minded. My mind was strong. And everybody told me it's not going to work and you're going to be sent back. And I didn't care. And they all said, you're not going to get a job because you have to have papers. I didn't care because I knew I can hustle and make money and create a better life for myself. And after working for my uncle and all that, then I started realizing what I can do with my life. And I started a small business. It, believe it or not, wasn't even in the real estate business. It was in the audio business. And I started this business by accident. But I didn't overanalyze like most people in business. Oh, I need to have a website. I need to have business cards. I just did it.
Yeah.
I knew I could buy a product for a certain amount at wholesale price and then sell it for near retail price. And there's a gap in there. And I did. I developed a pitch. I started selling. I started creating other mini-me's, smaller people like me, and I would train them on how to sell. And I grew this business, and I started the business at like basically 20 years old. By the time I was 24, 25, it was really successful. And we were well on our way to doing well as a business. Beautiful. Financially.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that's a phenomenal story. And that's why I wanted to start with your background, because you and I, we got to spend and hang out before the whole COVID-19 came down right upon us. It was right in New York, together with JT Fox and Hugh Hilton. And I knew that, like, not a lot of people know this, but guys, for those of you watching, Paulie today is in his 50s. He's fitter than he has ever been, right? He's stronger, faster, more energetic. I'm just selling it,
fitter, right? And I'm definitely not stronger. But hey, listen, for 53 years old, I could still go. I would not want to fight me.
I have seen your moves on stage, trust me. But what I was referring to is what I admire about you, Paulie, is like the tremendous amount of energy. Because as you see, I'm a very energetic person myself, right? I wake up with a tremendous amount of energy. But, you know, I'm in my 30s, so you have 20 years of more wisdom ahead of me. But every time we run into each other, right, you approach me with such an amazing energy, and it's just magnetic. So that's why I wanted to understand your background, because I know for sure that the person you are today, I mean, that wasn't the Paulie when you started out, like you just mentioned, right? You had adversity and challenges, and you had an environment that wasn't supporting your dreams. So my big question to start this off, Paulie, what were some of the big key takeaways, if you just have to fast track it from the 15-year-old Paulie Kazanofski that moved to California, because that's where I imagine your journey really began, toward
19. I moved to California at 19. I left my mom's house at 15.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, was living in Canada at 15, 16, 17. And then at 19, when I met my aunt and uncle, I decided I was going to move to California and never look back.
Yeah. So that's fast forward 30 years. So if we can break that down, and I know it's hard because I'm asking you to dive deep, but in that 30 years, what was the big takeaway that made you the man and the entrepreneur and just a great human being that you are today? In those 30 years, what were the big takeaways?
The biggest takeaways, I remember being a young kid, and all my friends would go to parties and they would be partying and all that. And I would be in the gym, you know, sweating and learning my craft as a boxer and the discipline and having the discipline. And I remember a lot of kids, trust me, I never got picked on or anything like that, but they would kind of talk about me like I wouldn't chase the girls like my friends did. I didn't, like I told you, I didn't do substances and all that. And I remember as a kid hitting the bag on a Friday night, and I was sweating through my clothes. And I remember asking myself, why am I here? And I knew my friends were out having quote unquote fun.
Yeah.
And the one hugest takeaway that I get is I go back to my mind, because I remember as a young kid hitting that bag and sweating and saying, why am I here? Well, as that journey of the 30 plus years of business and all that, I asked the same question. Why am I going through this? Why am I making the phone calls? Why am I building those relationships? Why am I taking so much crap in my journey as an entrepreneur? And I go back to that young kid on that Friday night when I was sweating through my stuff. And I know why I was there, because I was honing my skills to be a better person in life. And I wasn't going to accept the cards that were dealt to me. And I was going to fight through the journey and give up, quote unquote. When I say that, I use that term loosely, give up what my other friends were doing and all the things that people said I couldn't do. I knew that was the reason why I grinded through all the adversity. And those are the things that I remember the most, is the discipline and even sometimes questioning my own self. And we will, as entrepreneurs, as humans, you will question yourself. Why am I going through this? And I go back to that young kid and say, this is why, because I created a great life for myself. I have a great wife and kids and friendships and business and people that work for me. I created that because I was willing to sweat and hit that bag when I was a young kid, while all my other friends were quote unquote having fun.
Yeah.
To me, that was what my journey was, and that was fun for me.
So
and that's what I learned from that. And I learned that even though those questions will creep in our heads as entrepreneurs, I was willing to sacrifice and still keep sweating through my clothes.
So good. So good, guys. And so in the audience, we have people from all walks of life. We have seasoned entrepreneurs that have been in business for a long time. We have entrepreneurs, people that are maybe in a job working today and thinking about, switching or at least start building something on the side, right? To take control over something that is their own. Now, would you say, Paulie, because when I teach a lot of my students about entrepreneurship and business, I always start with the why. And the one thing that I just noticed that you said and emphasized on is the why, right? Your why was the one thing that pushed you through adversity. Would you say that by asking yourself always why, whatever the circumstances may be, why this or why that, do you think is that an early sign of like an entrepreneurial mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Look, that why is the buzzword. We all go to seminars, go to events. You see the guy in the thing, like social media is riddled with all these guys that stand in front of a Ferrari or whatever. And hey, listen, I'm not talking bad about anybody. Like, they could do whatever they want. But, you're right. You have to have a why. And that's kind of like, that you learned in a book. Look, when you go through the crap and the adversity and you still keep fighting, right? Because you want a better life, or, like, you don't want to be like everybody else, because let's be honest, only the top 1% or really the top 5% make it as an entrepreneur. Not like everybody, when they're selling you something, if somebody's selling you something, they'll tell you, we could all do it. It's very easy. This system, there is no system. The system lies within you to get up at 4:35, 5:30 in the morning and sweat through your clothes, so to speak, on the metaphoric example that I gave everybody. And in terms of why, it's the word that we all learned and used, but it goes deeper than even a why, because I wanted respect for myself. I didn't want to be like everybody else. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people that are okay being like everybody else. And there's nothing wrong. I'm not judging anybody, and I'm not sitting here on a high horse. I made it. It's just something that as a young person, I was willing to sacrifice. And I didn't have kids when I was a kid hitting the bag to become better. I didn't have kids when I started my journey as an entrepreneur at 19, 20 years old, building a audio business that made millions of dollars a year. I didn't know. I just was doing, because when everybody told me I can't, I just was doing. So I can't lie and say I had this insatiable why. When I ask people what's your why, they always say I do it I want to help people. That's all a bunch of BS, because when you first start as an entrepreneur, you just want to have a better life for yourself. You might want a better car, a better house, a better life for yourself, not living in the ghetto, like for instance, me. That's how it all started for me. And then, yes, you have a family, then you get married, your whys change. But if you're a dyslexic kid like me, and everybody says you got to go to college, because that's what we all preach to people, you got to go get an education, get a good job. That's what we all hear our life. Well, what if you can't go to college? What if you can't make it in like me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I'm not saying I can't, but hey, I can't read that good because I have a dyslexic mind, right? And it doesn't allow me to retain, and I can't spell well. And English was my third language and the whole 9 yards. So these people are telling me you got to do this. And I went a different way. So I don't really like using the word why, because I don't want some kid that grew up like me or some girl that grew up like me to say, well, everybody's telling me to do this and I have to have a why. Sometimes your why is just like, I can't get into college and nobody will hire me because I can't use a computer. I can't spell good. I'm not going to do a good resume. Maybe I need some other way. That for me, that's what started my why. And then of course now, I got the kids.
You evolved.
I want to help. Like I've always been a helpful guy. My heart's always been big. I've coached people for free. I've given my knowledge. I've taken people under my wing. Right. And what I've noticed by doing that is there's a certain sparkle, and I know who's going to make it and who's not. And it's typically the person that has some type of adversity in their life, whether they're an immigrant. That's why it's 4 times likely an immigrant comes to America and makes it, because they have this hardship, and that hardship was their why. It's all the people who said you're not going to make it. You need to get this, or you need to work for this company in corporate America. And I think that's where being real it is, because like, man, I go to events too. You and I know we go to events. My coach is real. JT Fox, when I met him 9.5 years ago, I'm like, this guy is real.
Yeah.
He practices what he preaches. He's the guy that I'm going to learn more business acumen from. I went to a lot of events prior to that, and I just didn't get it. I didn't get the rah-rah and all this stuff because it wasn't for me. Like, what is massaging the guy next to me's back going to do for my business when I can't pay the bills? I have no money in the bank, and I got to pay the materials that are coming in. And in order to keep going, I have to find a way to pay for those materials so that my guys could go out and sell those materials. Like the jumping up and down is not going to get you from point A to point B in a business. You know, and I think I'm a realist as an entrepreneur. And I think that it's watered down in the industry with these buzzwords and all that. And believe me, I got stories where I would go to an event and guys be using these long words. I didn't even know what they meant. And then I would ask, and I was already a multimillionaire, and I'd ask the guy, and I'd sit my mouth calm and humbly and going, how many deals have you done? And the guy looking back to me saying, oh no, I'm still learning. Meanwhile, if you listen to him, he sounds like he's worth tens and tens and tens of millions with the words and buzzwords he's using. But in all actuality, he has never done a deal because he's too busy reading and regurgitating all kinds of BS that he learned instead of getting out there and friggin' building relationships, building a business, building little entrepreneurs around you, empowering your crews and people around you to go out and make some sales, get some deals, build the relationships. Because to me, that's the why. Beautiful.
Hey, Paulie, I see we got a lot of questions from the audience coming in. So I want to do a little bit of a speed round, if that's okay with you.
Let's do it, buddy.
And first and foremost, guys, I told you this is going to be good because Paulie is going straight to the truth. Right? This is the real raw truth. So I hope you appreciate that, because that's to me is the most.
That's what they want, Robbie. That's what people want, the truth. They're fed up of being lied to and all of that. They just want the truth.
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful. What they deserve the truth from a real entrepreneur that bled.
I agree.
To where he is. It's not easy. Grant Cardone didn't get to where he is, and the plane and all that. I know that's what attracts people, but the guy's been busting chops for 35 years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
JT Fox didn't get to where he is. worth hundreds of millions of dollars working and coaching and doing events by being a talker. I seen his rise, and I seen the struggles and the sometimes the attacks and all these things. People want to be your friend when you're at the top, but a lot of people want to take you down when you get to the top.
Absolutely.
So let's take some questions.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think this is a great entrance. I have the first question here. And so Mayibi is asking, what would you advise to people that are currently trying to build a business, or maybe they're just trying to manage life and do something great for themselves, but they're feeling overwhelmed with this entrepreneurial journey, so many moving pieces? What would you say to them in order to keep their mind sharp and on track and on purpose?
Great question. Number one is you have to find what you want to do. Here's the problem with most entrepreneurs. They want to do 100 things and they're chasing all these shiny objects. Oh, I can make money here. Find the thing that gets you to a profit.
Yeah.
Profitability. Get yourself to profitability. Anybody negative in your life, you unfortunately have to cut or at least social distance from them. Right.
Right. Great analogy.
I have a lot of people tell you can't do it. Listen to my story. Trust me. And by the way, it's people typically that tell you that are people that are close to you because they want to either protect you or they're jealous of you. There's two reasons.
Yeah.
You need to really focus on what you want to do. I'm in real estate. There's so many strategies in real estate, but I picked the strategy that I felt made me the most money for the least amount of time. And I can take that money and I can put it back into my business and grow my business.
It's like rinse and repeat.
So the answer to your question is find a thing, because if you're chasing all these shiny objects, you're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to have to sit down with a piece of paper and say, what do I keep in my life in building my relationships and building my business? And then what do I have to alleviate from my life or cut free from my life? Start there and then find the thing that makes you the most profit, that you enjoy doing the most, and then get better at that. Really, you have to know your craft and get around people that are doing exactly that, and have mentors and coaching and people that are doing what you want to be doing. And then you will see that feeling of overwhelmness is going to dissipate, and you can really start focusing on the things that matter in your business and in your life. So I hope that helps you.
I think so. That's huge. I have Andres asking a question. Polly, being an entrepreneur today in 2020 with everything that is available to us, do you think it's easier now to get into business than it was, let's say, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s?
Well, look, I think being an entrepreneur, no matter what, is hard, even 70s, 80s, 90s, right up and now. But you're right, Andreas, you have such a plethora of social media that you can use. I mean, I use Facebook. I get deals from Facebook. Facebook has made me a very huge profits. So yeah, in the 70s and 80s, 90s, even when I started in 1989, we had none of those vehicles. So, but the number one way to build a relationship, to build a business, is still with relationships.
Yeah.
It's getting out there. Like a lot of people, they'll overanalyze, they'll overread books. Like, how many books do you read? And they hear these stories on, oh, Bill Gates reads 4 books a week, or, Warren Buffett reads 4 magazines a day, or what. Listen, what I'm saying is what works is still what worked in the 70s and the 60s and the 80s. Even now, is getting out there and building the relationships, studying the greats in the area of expertise that you're in, studying what they did, having good coaches like Rob and people like his industry, because they know how to get you on the right course. Having people like, when I met my coach, right, that was a real coach, it changed my life. It's because he knew he could watch what I was doing from the outside in and help me organize myself and get me to that next level in business. So is it easier? Well, I think it's never easy, but yes, there is some great platforms that we could use. And a lot of these young kids nowadays, these millennials, they do a lot of like cool things on social media, or they use Amazon to make money, or any type of these platforms, eBay and things like that. And yeah, it's a great time to do business, but it still doesn't say that you don't have to get on the phone and make the calls, do the deals, build the relationships, and so on and so forth. So all these things matter, but you know, is it easy? I think it is what it is. I mean, it might be a little easier now because you have these things, but back then we used newspapers, we used
yellow pages,
yellow pages, mailers. Which I still use those platforms and those ideas still to this day, and they still work. Face to face is still better than an email.
Guys, that was gold. So the fundamentals in business remain the same, but you may have different opportunities now to get into something because we have the abundance of the internet that made that possible. But I think that's a great entrance into the next question, because Nelson is really asking, Paulie, how long does it take on average to build these valuable relationships that you're talking about?
Well, look, I have to raise money. In my business, you can't just use your own money to buy houses or buildings. I do multifamily, I do single family, things like that. You'll run out of capital. So here's the thing that most people do wrong. Let me start there. Is they meet somebody that has money and they go right into the money. Hey, can you lend me money? Or I own this business, and they're pitching them. They haven't built that relationship, and they haven't showed that person what their character is yet. People with money don't just go, here's money because you have a good idea. They want credibility. They want loyalty. They want principles when nobody's looking. They want that character. So it takes a little while to formulate a good relationship. And I always tell people, when you meet people with money and you're having to raise capital to build your business, and in my case, it's buying properties, it takes a little time for you to start small. When you meet someone, you start with a good little relationship. Then several months later, you approach that person once they get to know you. And then you start small. You don't ask somebody for millions of dollars to do this big project you never did. Right. You ask them to do a single family home, in my case. Or if you're trying to build your business, whatever business it is, and you want to add another product or service, bring them into your business. Show them that you're able, with your credibility, your loyalty, your character, and then start small. Some of the entrepreneurs I work with and money lenders and relationships I built, I started with like 100,000 and less houses, these small little dilapidated houses. Yeah. And I grew that business to where now they lend me millions of dollars to buy buildings. So it does take several months in the beginning, and then sometimes several years. And then if something ever goes wrong, you know, in building these relationships, is you have to be the bigger human to not lie to them, to approach them, to tell them the truth, give them the integrity, what you're going to do when no one is looking. And it just takes time to build that. So it's not overnight. Success is a marathon. It's like, don't look at Instagram and the Ferraris and the planes and all that, because hey, listen, I have a Ferrari, but you'll never see me post it. Yeah, I live in a nice house that I own outright. I'm not going to walk around and show. Like, what business is a vehicle to give you a better life. Yeah. And you can help others then after.
Beautiful. Yeah, I 100% agree, Paulie. I think nowadays we have to practice patience, because especially people that like the millennials, the generation X and Y, right? They grow up with technology. We immediate gratification, right? Like think about the social media posting, the likes and the comments. But you just mentioned good, valuable relationships. It takes time. It's a craft. You want to provide real value. So even today, focus your time in getting connected and offering real value, because in the end, business is done with people, right? Never alone. And I think personally, and you may correct me if I'm wrong, because you're well ahead of me, but even if you reach a certain level of success in business, the bigger you grow, I guess the more people you will need, right, to do that business with. Isn't that true?
Yeah. And look, it just takes time. And well said. What you said is exactly right. It takes time to build relationships. And as you're growing, you're going to need to raise more capital, or you're going to have to hire certain people to fill the spaces, to be able to grow certain products and services and things like that. So you're right. I mean, don't get discouraged because you see somebody online, I think is what I'm trying to say, that says, I made $2.2 million in the last 8 months. And you're sitting at home going, I'm building this business for 3.5 years, and I made $8,000 this month. Don't get discouraged because of what they said, because most of it is a fugazi. And if for those of you guys who don't know what fugazi is, it's an Italian word that means fake. And you don't look, trust me, take it from true entrepreneurs like myself and Rob and my coaches that I've had in my life and things like that. It's a journey. It's a marathon. And I want to make myself clear when I speak and do these podcasts and webinars and all that, because I know a lot of times when I was on my journey and I would see these people, and before I knew I had the lie detector test where I knew how to ask them.
Your antenna.
And then I now know they were all lies all the way through. But when I was young, I didn't know how to detect that. Now I do, because I've actually been through the journey myself. Anybody could tell you they own, 1,000 doors and all that. I knew a guy that owned 300 houses and was bankrupt.
So Paulie, we're gonna move on a little bit into the real estate space, right? Because so many people tune in today to also learn about real estate. I think a lot of people are thinking about it. There's so many books out there. We have some great mentors, right? I think you and I earlier talked a little bit about Robert Kiyosaki, and there's so many other great people that are great examples. But what really drove you to the real estate, and what do you love about it?
I think the first initial drive was obviously the story I told you with my uncle and aunt. And I saw these two people that came from former communist country, Yugoslavia, and they came to America and they started small and they built quite an empire, and they still have that empire to this day. My uncle Jimmy started buying single family homes in 1968 in Southern California. And he held on to every single home and duplex and apartment building and commercial building that he ever bought. But he did start small. And I think I was enamored in the way that these two people, my aunt and uncle, just built a life together. They weren't special people. They weren't some small, smart scholar. They didn't come from big time money. And there's a lot of people listening to us talk here, Rob. I want people to know that it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters what you want out of your life.
And where you're going.
And that's the difference. And so what drew me to real estate was that picture. And saying, these are just regular, good, hardworking people. And look what they did. And I'm just a regular guy. And I can do that same thing. And there's a lot of regular people that are drawn into real estate because you don't have to be some smart guy. I'm dyslexic and all these things. You just have to have a vision, hard work, mentors, coaches, and a path. And once you can do that, you can amass millions of dollars. And here's the thing why I love it the most. You asked me. You don't even have to use any of your own money.
Right.
And that's what
other people's money. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk to your results today, because I'm very impressed, right? I think you're at 400 deals and counting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did 413 flips documented, not some guy in a suit telling you he did it. And then I've done 158 wholesale deals. And for those listening that don't understand what a wholesale deal is, it's very simple. A wholesale deal is you get the house under contract. Let's say this is the house. You put it under contract, but you don't end up buying it. You just sell that contract to another investor and you make the in-between money, sometimes 5, 10, 15, 20. I've even made 500,000 on one of those deals. Wow. Where I was just a middleman, but it was a $4 million deal. And I made half 502,000 to be exact on a deal. So it's amazing how my wholesale deal is one of my biggest single family deals I ever done, because it was such a bigger deal, but I didn't start there. I just want to really make people understand. So I've done 158 of those wholesale type deals and 413 actual flips that are closed. And now I have 16 houses that I'm either on the market, just about to be done, in the middle of construction. So you could add those 16 houses, because essentially they're going to be sold there as flips.
Yeah. Beautiful. Those are huge numbers, by the way. And I see some questions and comments getting through. And I know some of the people here, they are team members and loyal fans of the show. And I know that a lot of them are in real estate too. So they're wondering, if Polly, right, at to date is doing 400 plus deals, like what was the one thing that allowed you to accelerate, right? Because people start small, like you said, a few deals per year, and then maybe you double that the next year. But it's a journey. So what was the one thing that really helped you to accelerate? Because in order to get to 400 deals, right, you want to have a system and a duplicatable process in place to hit those numbers. So what would you say?
I would say
for you?
The number one thing is to build a good team around you, because there's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. If someone tells you I'm a self-made millionaire,
it's a fugazi.
Yeah, it's a fugazi thing. There's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. So what you want to do is learn your craft.
Yeah.
Really learn your craft. Like, if you don't know anything about construction, learn about construction. If you don't know anything about paperwork and how taxes and stuff, I mean, you guys do a fantastic job on showing people how to, protect and pay as little as taxes,
shelter their money from taxes,
by using tax strategies and things like that. So you want to be learning. You want mentors and coaches around you. So those are the things that help me grow. But I think the number one thing was being able to relinquish some of the control that we all believe that we can do business better than everybody around us. Right? And probably rightly so. But you have to find the right people and let them run certain areas of your business. You can't do construction, get on the phones and get leads, and then do the back office work, and then do the negotiating, building the relationships, raising the money. There's a lot that happens to be able to do over 500 real estate deals. And it just takes time, and really experience is the knowledge. It's the experience that you go through to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Because I didn't go from flipping one house to doing a 106 unit apartment building the next month.
Yeah.
It took a long time to build a crew and subcontractors and contractors. Just because you think you could go on Google and find a contractor and you think you could do a building, that's not necessarily true, because most contractors might realize that you're inexperienced and they might not want to do business with you. And worse yet, they might rip you off.
Yeah.
So if you don't know your craft and you think you're going to take on a 200 unit apartment building, or do like I'm working on a 62 unit apartment building right now, a 32 unit apartment building. I just did a 106 unit apartment building in High Point, North Carolina. You don't do these things without having that nucleus, the team and project managers and the mini yous that you created along your journey. So if you think you're going to get into real estate and you're going to make $1 million in 1 year, you're in the wrong business. Can you do it? Has people done it? Yes, there's several people that had business acumen prior to getting into real estate. They might have been able to raise money very well, or they had rich parents. I didn't have any of those.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of us don't.
Yeah.
The real people in business don't. And here's the thing that really angers me sometimes is the kids with rich parents never tell that they don't give the parents the credit that they deserve. That if I had rich parents, you guys, I could rest assured would know that the only reason why I was able to do 500 deals is because my parents gave me X amount of dollars. I would tell you the truth. But here's the problem. Most people won't, because they all want to act like they're the good guy and the smart guy and want to be the smartest guy in the room because of insecurity. See, I'm not insecure. I'm going to tell you the things that worked for me and that didn't work for me, the things I did right and the things that I did wrong. And I think people learn better from people like that are just honest and raw about their success and their story. So if somebody had a parent that gave them $5 million and now they're telling you, oh yeah, I done these apartment buildings. Well, yeah, but how I did it was I started with a $47,000 townhome that I bought 12 and a half years ago on my journey of flipping houses. And now it sounds impressive that I did 413 flips and 158 wholesale deals. Let me tell you, there's a lot in between there that I didn't say, and I won't have time to say, but I will say this. I didn't make money on every single deal that I did, and I know what I'm doing. So that's why I say you have to have caution and you build that team around you.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's like you already said, like success and your results, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you're essentially you're tweaking out the fine little, obstacles along the way. And the more you do that, it's like micro focus on those little hurdles and obstacles along the way to fine tune those. And then ultimately it just becomes like an avalanche, right? Because everything starts to work and fall together, piece together.
Right. So that's why people hire you, Rob, to coach them through the adversity.
Yeah.
That's why people listen to these podcasts so that they can hear these things, the truths about business and real estate in particular. And stop looking at what things cost you. Like, I hate when people say, I can't afford coaching. You can't afford not to have coaching. Because I just had a student that I renegotiated her deal in Canada and I saved her $92,000. So, I just saved her well more money on a deal that her and her husband was just about to buy than they paid me to coach them. So you need that coaching and guidelines, and that's why people hire you, Rob. I mean, you're good at what you do, buddy.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, I like you mentioned credibility, right? A lot of my success today and who I am it's in a testament to my coaches and mentors. They have such a big influence, and that applies to you as well, right? Like I really admire you, and I always follow your story. And even though you're super busy, and I'm grateful that you made the time here to talk to us today to educate, but in a way, I also consider you a mentor, because just by looking at the way you do deals, it teaches me a lot, right? I just look at you and I see the decisions that you're making. And I encourage guys here watching you on the show, if you're thinking about getting into coaching and mentorship and you feel that financially, maybe you have nothing to invest today, but like Polly just mentioned, you can start. We have social media. So you can start following Polly, right? Or you can participate in these podcasts and learn that way. And then, little by little, you want to make your way in aligning yourself with people that are in the field, that are doing the things that you want to do. Because look, Paulie has 35 plus years of experience, and you just want to hear from somebody so you can avoid making those mistakes. I think, wouldn't you agree, Paulie? That's essentially what
that's a huge one.
Mentors do.
That's a huge one. It's like, I'm not going to do the deal for you, but I'm going to make sure you're protected in that deal. You're buying it right. We make our money on the buy. I was listening to your podcast, and you guys mentioned that several different times, and it's so true. You make your money on the buy in real estate, and you have to know what a good buy is, how to evaluate a deal, and not listening to everybody telling you it's a good deal. If you don't know your own numbers, and some real estate agent or some wholesaler or some guy or girl tells you it's a good deal and you believe that, then you could run into a huge amounts of trouble. 78% of people in real estate lose money or break even.
Yeah.
You want to be in the other percent? You want to be in the other percent, the 22% that make it? Well, you need those coaches, mentors, people a real person that tells you the truth.
Yeah.
Even when you don't want to hear it. Just like my coaches, just like when I coach my students, and I've had students that want to be argumentative because they feel like they're right. Listen, don't have an ego. I'm a humble guy. Like, most people don't even know what I've done until I do these things. I stay quiet. I know I talk a lot here, but I stay quiet. I stay humble. I don't forget where I come from.
Yeah.
And I tell the truth, and I created my own life so I don't have to fake it.
It's by design, right? It's all by design.
I remember when I was a young guy, and I already had $1 million in liquid cash in my freezer because I was illegally here. I couldn't even open up a bank account in America. And so I was wrapping my money in my freezer like meat. Yeah. Right? And yes, money does freeze. It froze together.
Guys, I told you this is going to be good.
Yeah. So this is a true story, because my other audio business was an all cash business. So here I have over $1 million. And yes, I did count it several different times. And I'm not going to lie, I had this obsession of becoming successful, and I wanted to become successful, and no one believed me that I would. But nobody knew it, except for a few of my friends knew. Because why? I was driving a secondhand car, living in a humble place, because I didn't go and make money and go buy watches and cars and big houses and over leverage my whole life. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I knew that I had to understand money. And that's one thing that people don't understand, is when you don't understand money and you start making money, you can easily make it and easily lose it.
Yep.
You have to be really careful what you do with the money. And I started another business. I started building custom homes with that money that I just shared with you. Yeah. And I filtered that money by partnering up with a builder. And that's how I really, really started learning the construction side of this business. But just be cognizant of what I just shared with you, because when you make a lot of money, don't be running and buying nice, big, fancy cars and spending, money that you don't have, or worse yet, that you should be putting back into your business.
There's always a different time for that. But let's talk about investing, Paulie, because you're a coach and you're teaching other people in the real estate space. We mentioned the incredible results that you have achieved throughout your life, also mainly in real estate. So how important is it? Because you said it right? And in our business, we're actually teaching people how to protect their money from the volatility of the stock market. We have a lot of people, they want to trade Forex, they want to put their money in stocks.
It's all BS, the trading and all that. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, real estate is sticks and bricks. You know where it is. It's not going anywhere. I remember when I was young, I had a lot of people, you should put your money in stocks. You got all this money, Paulie. You're a young guy. Wait and see, when you're in your 60s, you're going to be worth. And look, I'm not saying stocks are bad. but learn your craft before you do the stock.
Yeah.
Be conservative in the way you invest. That's why I like real estate, because it's a conservative way to invest your money, hard-earned money. And there's ways to protect it. And you guys do a great job in showing people how to protect it. There's tax-deferred platforms that you can use, strategies, I should say, not platforms, strategies. Investing in real estate is what I do. Because why? Because I know that. Yeah. I invest in the stock market? Yes, but very conservative, in a conservative fashion is how I do. Yeah. I'm very well diversified, but the bulk of my money is in real estate because that's what I know. And that's what is not going anywhere. This is a house. It's not going anywhere. Yeah. This is a building. It's not going anywhere. And it creates a cash flow. It's a cash flow, and cash flow is key. You hear a lot of the bigger gurus talk about cash flow. They're absolutely right. Cash flow is king. You have to have a cash flow, and that's why I love it. People say, why don't you buy more land? Why don't you build more? You know how to build. Well, land costs you money. An apartment building makes you money when you buy it right. A single family home, a duplex, a fourplex makes you money when you buy it right. And it could cash flow for you. And it's always going to be something that is adhered to the ground.
Yeah. So it sounds to me, Paulie, that your philosophy is you make a lot of money through business, right? Accumulate cash flow, but then you invest it and you protect your money, right? Because you can make a lot of money and lose a lot of money, but you want to really learn the habit of save and invest. Make a lot of money, save and invest. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like, what is your philosophy about making the money, but save and invest for a secure future?
I'm a little bit different than most of the people that you'll hear. I like buying stuff for cash. You don't really hear a lot of people say, I own my rental properties for cash, or my house for cash, especially now that the interest rate is 3% or lower. You know, why not use bank money? And by the way, I believe in leverage too. Let me stop there. Yeah. Leverage is a great thing, but when you over leverage is when you could get hurt and be a part of that 78% of people that don't make money in real estate. So there's a fine line to using other people's money or the bank money or building a relationship with a small banker in your town or in your area and using their money to make money. I believe in that. But when you're flipping houses and you make 30, 40, 60, 80, 100, sometime I just flipped the house. We made 152,000. Did I take that 152 and go and blow it? No, I put it back into my business. I could have simply buy a duplex, a fourplex. I could have put that 152,000 and buy a 36 unit apartment building, put 20% down, get the rest of the money from the bank relationship I have. And then that would cash flow $7,000, $8,000 a month once I stabilize that building. Yes, that's a good strategy. There's so many ways to do it, but the way I first did it, and there's a lot of people listening to this right now that haven't even done a deal. So I want to go back because it's easy to hear a guy that's done all these deals and I could sit here and talk like a big shot, right? But I want to go back to when I first started, right? And I didn't have an abundance of money. Yeah. And what I did was I flipped, I saved the money. And then what I did was I said, you know, I need to still buy the house correctly, like I'm buying it for 50 cents on a dollar, 55 cents on a dollar. But this time I'm going to keep one and I'm just going to pay cash for it. Now, was that the right tax strategy at that time? No, it wasn't. But this is what I did, right? Because I want to be total transparent. And authentic. So I would flip, buy another one. Flip, buy another one for cash. Now, all of a sudden, I had $3,000-$4,000 coming in free and clear. Plus, my houses kept going up because the market was going up. Because most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time in real estate, rents go up, markets go up, by 3, 4, 5, 6%, sometimes even substantially more than that. Here in Nashville, Tennessee, where I live, if you bought a house, which I did in 2011 or 10, and you kept it to 2020,
your
that
appreciation,
helps for 2.5 times more. So that is what happened to me. So a longevity play is not a bad play, but at the same time, I was flipping, and instead of going out and buying Mercedeses and all that, which, by the way, I have all those things now, but not in the beginning. Even when I started my first business when I was 19 and 20, I didn't go running out and buying all these things. So I want people to hear these things. So what I did was I amassed a large portfolio of paid for houses. And then what I did was I leveraged those paid for houses to buy bigger multifamily units.
Yeah.
Didn't start with the elephant. I started with the little rabbit, and then I chased that guy down. And then after I got good at chasing those little rabbits, then I started tearing myself up into the space of buying properties.
Commercial,
and you had that beautiful lady the other day on thing. She started with single family homes, got into the larger deals. She talks about paying yourself first, being very conservative. These are the things that not everybody talks about. Because everybody, 10X, man, do this, right? Well, if you never done a deal and you go buy a 200-unit apartment building, like I said before, you're going to get massacred. I promise you. Trust me, flipping even a 62-unit apartment building or a 32-unit apartment building, it's like doing 62 houses at the same time. Trust me. It's like doing 62. You got to buy cabinets, floors, this and that, and coordination, and have all these, the AC guy, the electrical guy, the plumbing. You have to know how to coordinate all that. You need to start with a small little townhouse, a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and and learn your craft there. And then but in that process, buy a couple of rentals, buy a couple of rentals. And then those rentals will keep going up in the rents, and the profit of the house will keep going just because of inflation and stuff like that. And then when you go through all of that, now you have a good little portfolio that can help you position yourself better with the banks. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you start small with the fundamentals, and there's a time for scaling up, guys. There's a time for scaling up. But the point that Paulie is really bringing home, and what I take away from this, Paulie, is that you want to make sure you have a stable foundation. And sometimes that process is tedious. Rinse and repeat until you get to a portfolio and the cash flow of, when things start to grow. Then you can go bigger, and then you can buy something free and clear that is producing cash flow. But at the beginning, you want to start small and build your fundamentals and not get overexcited and go way too fast, right?
Yeah, that's so well said. And I want to add a little more to that is people always ask me, what did you do with the rentals? Because you were getting free and clear $1,000, $1,200, $1,300 a month, $1,500 a month from each and every one of these single family. I didn't spend that money. I let it grow. And then I bought with other people's rental money. I bought other single family duplexes and things like that. So I had different streams of income. I spawned other businesses from using the guys that I used to remodel these ugly houses that we were buying. And people started asking me, hey, can you do my kitchen? So I'm like, wait a minute. Can you do my roof? Wait a minute. I'm going to start a remodeling and roofing company. And I did, using my guys, and was able to get different streams of income. I had the rental portfolio. I had the flipping. I had the wholesaling. I had now the roofing, the remodeling, and all of that money that I started making, I started putting it back into the business, and it got more coaching so that I can have a bigger vision. And I didn't look at what the coaching. When you invest in yourself, I don't care what you spend. But if you're going to go out and buy big fancy things, then I throw some caution up and go, oh, time out. Let's wait and let other people's money pay for those toys that we all want as men.
That's amazing. Hey, Paulie, I think as we're coming to a close here, I think this time spent with you was phenomenal and so valuable. And I know that a lot of the people watching and tuning in today, they got so much value out of this. But there's one more big bonus here that you and I discussed, because we're coming from a place of serving, right? From a place of love and helping other people and in throwing that elevator back down and helping people along their way. Paulie, I know you're a phenomenal coach and you have a phenomenal coaching business, and you have the programs that, by the way, my partner is part of that. She's always following you, right? You and JT, when you guys talk about the deals.
Yeah.
So we're going to give away, guys, 1 hour directly with Paulie, right? We can talk about entrepreneurship, real estate, investing, but talk to us a little bit about your program, Paulie. Like, what is it that people get out of this when they coach with you? Like, what do you talk about?
Well, we talk about on how to analyze deals the right way, how to raise money, what 9 houses not to buy. There's houses that you should not buy, not because you can't sell them necessarily, but they're harder to sell. And in our business, it's called velocity of money. You got to get in, get out, get in, get out. So I talk about that. Motivation, just even simple motivation, having a different set of eyes on something that you think might be a good deal. And I might tell you to bring that good deal and bring it in the back and shoot it because it's not a good deal. I'll tell you the truth about where you're heading. You know, and you know, like people could follow me on Millionaire Flicks. I have my own show with JT's platform on Millionaire Flicks. It's called Paulie's Corner. And then I even do this thing with JT, and I know you are a part of it. Yeah. It's called realestateliFetime.com. And if you go there, it shows all the deals we're working on, and it's behind the scenes. It's like ripping down the curtain and seeing what we bought it for, all the do's and don'ts in the deals, me dealing with everything. And so that way, if you see that, that's kind of how I gear my coaching. Yeah. And it's all about the behind the scenes, the things no one tells you about. And I think that's what gives such value there, because you're getting coached by someone who's actually doing deals still to this day. I'm not someone who wrote a book and branded myself somehow as a guru, and now I'm telling people how to do it. And those people are asking me how I do it, and then they take notes. They learn it, and then they act as if they did it. You're actually learning from someone who actually did it.
On the field. Yeah. Absolutely. So there you have it, guys. This is the raw and unfiltered truth about entrepreneurship, about the mindset, the process in that journey to accumulate success, and how to get into real estate. So, Paulie, you have been phenomenal. You're a great friend. You're such an inspiration. Thank you, I love to follow you. And again, I think we share that energy, because whenever I talk to you, it's just like poof, an explosion. So I know that a lot of people felt that here today. So I appreciate your time, brother. And I want to close out. If there's one thing that the people that are tuning in today, what would you say to them on their journey towards success? One thing.
Their journey is, the number one thing is, don't listen to people that are negative and tell you can't do it. Number one. That's a big one. I think a lot of people, even close people to you, will tell you it won't work. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to coach? Why do you listen to these webinars and podcasts? Why don't you just get a real job? Why don't, all of those things, if you believe inside of your heart that you could do it, don't listen to them. And I've had a lot of people in my life tell me those things, but I will be honest with you. A lot of my friends, even though when I was young, and those old stories that I told you from old Uncle Paulie, right?
Yeah.
Sweating through my clothes and all that, my friends actually noticed. And they did say, no one didn't think I was going to succeed, right? And I know that sounds a little contradictory, but they still, because sometimes people care about you, quote unquote, they'll try to hold you back.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it could even be people that love you. So really be critical on the people around you. Number one. And number two, and this is the big one I'm leaving you with, don't let fear get in your way, because I'm afraid. You hear me, I talk very gregariously, I have a lot of energy. I still get afraid, but I don't let the fear hold me back. I still do it. So if you didn't do a deal, or you haven't started a business, or you just been listening to podcasts, you could listen to podcasts until you turn blue. You could read all these books until you turn blue and you can't see anymore. If you do not implement and you do not focus on what matters,
it's just going to be more information, right?
Information, and don't let the fear get in your way. So that's my 2 cents, and I hope that helps you.
That is absolutely phenomenal. I love how we ended this show today. There you have it, guys. If you found value in today's show, right, pay it forward by sending this over to your friends or your family that want to learn about this, or leave us a good review about here today, right? Leave us a review about what you got out of this interview today. And thank you, Paulie, for being...
And be honest. If you didn't like me, it's okay. I still love you anyway.
Yes. I'm going to wish you a phenomenal day. I appreciate you so much. And guys, I will see you on the next episode of the Entrepreneur Speaker Series with more value to come. See you next time, guys. Thank you so much, Paulie.
See ya.